Hey everybody, this is Gills and Sundry. I went scuba diving at Edmonds Underwater Park, a protected no fishing zone. The tide was out, so it was a long walk down to the water. A really long walk. As you can see, the visibility was pretty bad. It was like maybe 10 feet. And the reason for that is the phytoplankton in the water column during the summer reproduce and grow at a crazy rate, and it basically just turns the water green. And here is a little red rock crab. Well, not so little. Just looking for food. I have to stop filming and then start it up again in order to refocus the camera, just because it's not a very good camera. And here's a little kelp crab. They can get much bigger than this, but this is the biggest one I saw that day. Crabs can actually regrow lost limbs, but it takes many moltings to regrow it, and here you can see sort of the little smaller regrowing limb on this crab. We also have decorator crabs here in Puget Sound. It seems that algae is one of the favorite objects that they use. The only nudibranchs I found on this dive were these little opalescent nudibranchs. And I'm sorry about the low video quality, but my camera has really terrible white balance, so it just kind of whites out everything. These little guys are pretty cute though. It was really fun to see all these cute little tiny baby rockfish swimming around in small schools. I can't tell what species they are because they're so small and visibility is not great, but they sure are cute. I believe this is a juvenile quillback rockfish. Quillback rockfish can live up to 90 years in the wild, which is a really long time for a fish. They may not reach reproductive maturity for many years, so it's really important not to overfish these species. I was lucky enough to get a close-up look of a full-grown copper rockfish. Like many local species, it has been overfished, and there are now pretty strict regulations on fishing. Though, really, I do not recommend eating rockfish at all, since all species are pretty long-lived. Though this species is one of the shorter-lived species, it lives about 40 years, and they reach maturity at about 3 to 8 years old, depending on if it's male or female, and there's a pretty wide range. And adults reach about a foot long at maximum size, which this one is about that long. This fish tolerated my presence better than most adult rockfish, probably due to the low visibility. It just sort of swam around a little bit and then decided that it had enough and was ready to move on. The largest shallow water fish here in the Pacific Northwest is the lingcod. They can reach about 5 feet long and weigh up to 100 pounds, and they can just sort of appear out of the murk like this. And it's interesting to note that I only see them get this big when in protected areas where they're not overfished. My dad spooked this one, so she swam off. Giant plumose anemones are all over the place in these waters. Just like other anemones, they live in colonies that are clones. Nobody is quite sure why different clones can turn up different colors. This kelp perch was a little bit wary of my camera. Sometimes this species acts as a cleaner fish for larger species, picking the parasites off their skin. This is probably a tide pool sculpin, though it can be hard to tell the species since many species of sculpin have these striped patterns. Shiner perch are a common sight while scuba diving. There are 3 different major types of algae here in Puget Sound. There's green, red, and brown algae. Algae and kelp are not the same as plants. Plants have roots, while algae and kelp may sometimes have anchors, which are sort of root-like looking structures, but they don't actually suck up water. Just the leaves of the algae does that. So when you cut off a piece of algae, it can still thrive and live as long as it doesn't drift into deep waters where it can't get sunlight. The larger striped perch are a little bit camera shy, so are harder to film even in better visibility conditions. We came upon an encouraging sight on this dive when we found 3 adult and healthy-looking ochre sea stars. In my last video, I talked about how the mysterious sea star wasting disease nearly wiped out most populations all along the west coast. Now it's looking like the disease has run its course, and there are surviving sea stars that either didn't get the disease or are naturally immune to it. I'm hoping it's immunity, because scientists are finding lots of juvenile and baby sea stars. This is in like 10 feet of water, so hence the wave action. This is a painted anemone. Their tentacles are full of stinging cells called nematocysts, which will paralyze fish so they can pull them into their mouths. But the nematocysts are pretty much harmless to humans who have much thicker skin. Here you can see it trying to eat my finger. To a human, the nematocysts are just sticky. A hermit crab that my dad picked up. I'm not sure he knew I was filming. This little crab was after a new shell, but it was already occupied. Better luck next time, little crab. Whoops. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for my next video.